Why are so many people overwhelmed with clutter? Disorganization is causing shame, suffering, friendships, time, money. People just like you wondering where and how to create an organized lifestyle. This podcast offers expert tips and solutions for your clutter obstacles. My name is Rachel Seavey, and this is the Hoardganize podcast.
Hey, collectors. This episode is all about Tony Robbins and how I am not like him. I know, who really cares, right? Well, this has come up a little bit in my life. And obviously, I'm not a 6'7" man, but that's not what I mean by this episode. This episode is actually long coming because since I started my official coaching career, it has been a topic of discussion. I'm not Tony Robbins. My coaching style is nothing like Tony Robbins. However, I was trained by Tony Robbins and I'm certified through the Tony Robbins Life Coaching Program. Now, this program included instruction from world-renowned therapist Chloe Madonis and Mark and Magali Pasha, who are life coaches that I totally admire as well and have more of my style, my vibe, who I can identify my coaching style is more like theirs than like Tony Robbins. But, you know, the reason I wanted to do a Tony Robbins coaching program was really kind of because it had to do with my own personal life. And I didn't realize that so many people would question it because let's be honest, he's somebody that you probably love or hate. It's usually one or the other. And he's somebody that gets scrutinized a lot for his interventions and his different methods and he's just kind of, an odd guy, which I get. Nobody's perfect. And it's not his calling people out or pushing people past their limits or, being loud or swearing. It's not any of that really has attracted to him to me. It's just been all throughout my life, I've actually studied his work. And so that's why I was drawn to the coaching program. I mean, there are a lot of coaching programs out there. I mean, everywhere you look, there's a new coaching program starting up, or this one certification, or you're only a coach if you do that certification, or if you're an organizer, you should be this kind of there's so much information out there, but I really gravitated towards this coaching program just based on my own personal business, y'all. So Tony Robbins changed my life. If you didn't know that, now you know. And you really can't go about being a life coach. I feel like you can't call yourself a life coach unless you've been really through some stuff in life and you've gotten through it yourself and you have those tools yourself and you have strategies that work because they worked for you. So I feel like if I had a normal upbringing and like a perfect life, then I actually wouldn't qualify to be a life coach because you've got to live life if you want to coach it, right? So here are a few excerpts from my personal life. I hope you don't mind me oversharing. This is not the easiest thing to do, but and then I'll tell you why I'm even having this discussion in the first part. But anyway, I have been all over the world. I've been homeless. I've been depressed. I've been anxious. I've been scared. I've been married. I've been divorced 2 times. I've had a child. I've lived on both sides of the tracks. I've lived in mansions and I've lived in my car. I've been independent. I've worked for corporate. I've experienced unbearable amounts of heart-wrenching pain in my life. I've been judged. I've been bullied. I've been abused. I've had a late-term miscarriage. I've been cheated on. I've been neglected. I've neglected myself. I've felt overwhelming shame. I've been through a lot in my 40 years of life, okay? So instead of my story, the story that I'm telling you, my life story, being a recipe for disaster, I learned through Tony Robbins' work to change the narrative of my life, of my story, and to make it a recipe for success. And not only make it a recipe for success for me and for my life, but to be able to pass on and share this knowledge and these different philosophies that I've learned from his work has been one of my biggest joys in life, is learning how to be happy and then teaching others how to be happy, if you want it in layman's terms or simple terms here. So let's rewind a bit. I shared on a couple episodes ago that I basically grew up with a guru for a stepdad. And this is someone that taught me a lot of self-love when I needed it the most. And I lost him to lung cancer when Shane was a baby. And, it's honestly one of the biggest losses that I've ever suffered. It's still really hard. It's been 13 years. It's still really hard for me to talk about. So I do get sentimental and emotional at times. Believe me, I'm not, some sort of person that doesn't have any sort of attachment to people or things. But, when the only person, my mom abandoned me at 12. So when the only person in my life that was really like a parent died, I was just really lonely and I was looking for guidance. And I was tired of being miserable and tired of feeling overwhelmed and ashamed and not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. And so that's when I really started to study Tony's work. It just kind of landed in my lap, and I was tired of suffering. I just really wanted to be fulfilled. And his work, the framework, is really teaching you to live with passion, to enjoy life to the fullest, and to be happy. And when you see yourself going through a hard time, don't make it this story of doom. Reinvent yourself, reinvent the story, change the narrative, make it something that you can, make lemonade out of lemons. And I know a lot of it sounds like positive thinking and, oh, happy, just think happy thoughts, but it's really a practice. It's something that I've worked for decades on. And it's something that I teach with you guys. Stop the negative thinking. Stop putting yourself down. Stop worrying. It's not helpful. And so I tell myself the same things. And now it comes pretty natural to me. And I've got lots of tools in my arsenal to help me whenever I have anything come up in life, because, nothing's certain but death and taxes and change. And so there's always things changing. I mean, look at this pandemic has completely knocked me out of work, but it's allowed me to work on other things that are important to me and build the Facebook page and spend time with my son. So it's really about changing the narrative and changing your story, which is a huge thing that I learned from Tony, because I had pretty depressing story before, but now it's one of courage. It's one that I'm not ashamed of any longer. For a long time, I was ashamed of the way I was raised. And happy now, because I wouldn't be who I am without those kinds of challenges or without those kinds of influences. So I graduated. I mean, I started with Tony Robbins when it was on cassette tape. Here's something funny. I have the original CDs that I really studied his work from. I used to pop in a CD, and anytime I was commuting, I would listen, study, just really try and immerse myself in his work so that I could get out of the misery that I was suffering in and get into a better state, which is, again, his framework. So it wasn't really, though, until I went to one of his live events, which was, I've been to a lot now, but Unleash the Power Within. If you haven't been and you're open-minded and you're okay with being up for 14 hours jumping, I definitely suggest you go, because it's something like you've never been to, especially, obviously when the pandemic's over. He does things virtually, but it wasn't until I was fully immersed in his work and forced to face these kinds of struggles and demons and my story that I had told myself for a while, that I decided, I really like his philosophy. I really like this framework. I really like the idea of being in a beautiful state and choosing to be in a beautiful state and working on being in a happy, beautiful state for the rest of my life, because life is precious and life is short. And I just was tired of being miserable. I was tired of crying. I was tired of feeling worthless. And I've been there in my life. And so anyway, let me get to the point. I've actually met Tony Robbins. He really has inspired me to just be happy. I'd say the framework. I'm not like him. I don't get in my client's face. I don't push them to their limits, not in the way that he does. So the reason I'm having this podcast episode, let me get to the point, is because I was chatting it up with Julie Caraccio. A lot of you know her. She's also an organizer who has a podcast. It's called Clearing Clutter Inside and Out. And she's just amazing. And we're friends, and we were talking. And, she's straightforward like I am, which is what I love about her. And she's like, how's that Tony Robbins coaching going for you? He's kind of abrasive. And I'm like, that's kind of funny, because I was always worried that people would associate my style with his style, because I learned a lot from him. But really, a lot of his students are nothing like him. I mean, there's just basic framework, and then you have your own individuality to take over as a coach. But so I'm explaining this to her, and she's like, yeah, you should probably cover that on one of your podcasts, because I think there's people that probably would want to work with you, but they're afraid that you're going to get them in their face, or make them walk on hot coals, or get into some culty stuff, drinking the Kool-Aid. And no, it's not like that at all. And so I was laughing, made a note. I'm like, okay, Julie, totally fun idea. Thank you for calling me on it. Maybe I will one day announce that my coaching style is way, way different from Tony Robbins. And so I was just like, note to self, it was not a high priority podcast. No offense, because it's all about you guys. And honestly, I feel like this is about me right now. So thank you again for allowing me to overshare. And I feel like I'm like justifying myself here. But so then I'm talking to my business coach, Geraldine Thomas, and she's like, so how's the Tony Robbins coaching going? And I'm like, it's good. And she's like, wow, are you charging an arm and a leg? And I'm like, no, actually, I'm charging like really reasonably. I'm thinking maybe I should raise my rates. I don't know. She's like, oh gosh, okay. Cause I always associate Tony Robbins with big bucks. And so this is just another person that's in my life that's like, well, maybe you should clarify that you don't have these outrageous prices like Tony Robbins. Maybe it's pushing people away because they think they're going to be out an arm and a leg working with you. So I just wanted to say, I mean, he's a public figure. He's a celebrity. He's getting paid millions of dollars, and people are thousands and thousands of people are there to have an intervention with him, and they know his style. So if you go to Tony Robbins events and you raise your hand, you're probably going to get called out, and you're going to go through a lot of pain, and you're going to work on things you never wanted to work on in front of a whole bunch of people. That's kind of the format. And I'm not like that at all. And I'm also, like a single mom and a business owner, and just trying to make it here in Northern California, where the rents are like, you got to give over your firstborn child. And so no, I feel like my rates are reasonable. I don't get in people's faces. So I wanted to clarify that. And then the last thing that really lit a fire under my what was that I had a listener send me an email like, hey, I'd love to work with you, but I don't like Tony Robbins. And it like went right there. So I was like, oh my gosh, I think I need to address this. So yeah, what she didn't like about Tony is that he swears, and he does in his interventions. He doesn't really on his audio stuff, but he does in person. If you go to a live event, absolutely swears and uses it to his advantage during his interventions. Do I swear? I mean, on my podcast, I think I said the S word a couple times, but it was like, in my coaching sessions, I definitely don't swear. And so I wanted to clarify that if his abrasive kind of swearing and all that kind of a style has had you afraid of working with me as a coach, just rest assured, I am not like that at all. And if you do coach with me, you're going to be guided gently. I will be as direct as I am on my podcast. So that's not a big surprise, but there's absolutely zero judgment. So thank you for not judging me. This has been quite the personal episode. I just want to let everybody out there know this is probably the only time I'm going to address this. It feels a little selfish, but no, I am nothing like Tony Robbins. I just really admire the work that I have been able to personally achieve through his philosophies. And that's really just about it. Other than that, we're totally different people. For the theme of use it or lose it, just so I can explain to listeners who aren't watching, throughout this entire episode, I have been rotating Tony Robbins hats that don't get worn very often because, again, February is going to be use it or lose it. And I have this Tony Robbins shirt on, and I really like it. It's so hard with my new camera setup to show you guys what I'm wearing. But it's got a picture of the San Francisco Bay Bridge and a big sun, and it just says rise and shine. But I don't like this neckline, so I'm thinking, I don't know, is it 90s to cut it? I just don't know. I don't know. So I'm on the fence. I mean, love this Tony Robbins shirt. Definitely love the hats. So I'm keeping the hats, just making a note to wear them more often. But this shirt, I mean, what do you do when you like someone so much and you have the shirt that you like so much, but the neckline here, y'all, is not flattering. So let me know what you think. I will be posting all these kinds of debacles and dilemmas that I have of my own use it or lose it on the Facebook page. So make sure you're subscribed to our private group so you could see, and maybe you could help rate. Like I'll put something on and say, use it or lose it. You guys have to be nice, right? Don't be mean, which you never are. I love you guys. You're so good to me. So thank you for hearing my rant about me not being like Tony Robbins, because yes, I post a lot of his stuff on social media, and I don't want you guys to think that I'm some sort of a culty person, because my friends, oh my gosh, they thought I was going off the deep end when this whole thing started happening. Yes, his events are expensive. Yes, the program was ultra expensive. However, it meant a lot to me personally because I've personally used his philosophies and they work. It's so important to spend this one life that we get happy, and I heard something, I can't remember where it was. I can't quote it. I've been just addicted to Clubhouse as a side note. I don't know if any of you are on there. I don't want to distract you, but it's a great thing to listen to if you're cleaning and organizing. It's a new app. And feel free to follow me on there. I'll be opening up some rooms and having some discussions soon. But I heard someone say YOLO. And then someone said, you only live once. And then another person said, no, you live every day. You only die once. So I kind of like that. It's use it or lose it, February. And if it doesn't fit, it must have quit, right? Until next time, collectors. And remember, happiness is a place between too little and too much.
Thank you for listening to the Hoardganize podcast. Please make sure you're subscribed and join our Hoardganize podcast Facebook page and get additional tips and challenges.